Awesome Thursday of Ops Experts Club here at the Collab team. Savannah, good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
We have with us a fun-tacular guest from one of our awesome, you like that word?
Love it.
I was trying to do fun and spectacular, so just roll off the tongue easily. Anyways, quite a great guest. Excited to be discussing things with her from one of our awesome clients we love working with called the Rainmaker family, who you've seen some other people we've had on, Kimberly, Jeff. Might be a so far, but more to come as well. There's lots of great people at the Rainmaker family who are now ops experts as well. So Kelly, welcome aboard.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
I also just feel like I need to point out, Kelly, that your hair looks amazing. I feel like your hair has grown like 8 inches since the last time that I got to see you live on camera.
Well, thank you. Nice to hear.
Well, Kelly, tell us a little bit about, what you're doing for who, what your role is, what that involves daily.
For sure. Sounds good. Yeah. So I work with the Rainmaker family. And it was kind of a crazy story how I arrived at the Rainmaker family, but I arrived as an application review specialist and kind of really took a look at the systems in place and kind of brought my experience from my previous job experience in my career and looked into optimizing and automating and ended up in the role that I'm in now. So right now I'm the challenge enrollment manager. So I lead our teams who nurture our leads into our programs.
That is cool. So you're working directly with the customers?
I'm not, but my team is, correct. I used to be, but yes, now I'm just serving my team members.
Right. And how big of a team do you have over there now?
Right now we're at, I believe, 15. Yeah, so we've doubled in size since I took on the role in last August.
Whoa.
Yes, we're growing rapidly. It's awesome.
Goodness. Yeah. Good problem to have.
Exactly.
And how did you find or get started with the Rainmaker family?
Well, that is a little bit of a long story, but I feel like it's a worthy one to tell because it's all about leaning into the season you're in. So I'll go ahead and share it. But yeah, I've, been in my career for about 20 years now. I'm in my 30s now. And when I think about it, it kind of feels like a lifetime just because I've held so many different roles. I've always had these really fun opportunities presented to me, and I've always just leaned into them and gone all in. So I've been a floral designer. I've worked in brick and mortar retail. I've worked in e-com. And the positions have varied. I've been, I've worked at the register and I've also led large teams. So it's been great. I value each of those experiences, even if some, might not have been as shiny as the other ones. But yeah, I ended up finding Rainmakers. I had worked a 9-to-5, a corporate 9-to-5, where I had this lead position, but part of that was speaking with our most escalated customers. So people would on the daily threaten me and threaten my family and not see the light and call the light out of me. And at that time, my dad kind of noticed that, and he saw this opportunity. So he was so cute. He came over to my house. He had his little he called it gold, but it was totally pink, his rose gold computer that he brought over. And he's like, guys, I found the next big thing. I need to tell you all about it. And it was Amazon FBA. This is back 2016. So this is before even Rainmakers really had taken off. And he explained the whole process. We went over it for a couple hours, and I was just like, Dad, that's great. I think that's so awesome. You should look into that, but that's not for us right now. We were totally operating from a position of lack at that point in our lives. We were both working full time. We had a toddler. We didn't see, what there could be out there for us. So that conversation, that was that. And then unfortunately, a few years later, my dad passed, and I still had this crazy stressful job. And I started developing hypertension. And when I had this high risk pregnancy because of all this stuff going on, And once I took my maternity leave and, I had full intentions to go back to work. But once I looked into my second born's face, I just knew like, she sees this light in me. Like I can't go back to a position where that light's not being drawn out of me every day. So I made the choice to stay home. Was really grateful that we had that opportunity and we were able to do that. But once my son was in kindergarten and my daughter was about to go into preschool, I had some time. So I started thinking like, okay, what's next? What's my next spot in the workforce? Or am I going to start, thinking about opening my own business? And then immediately Chelsea's ad popped up. Chelsea, the co-founder of our company, asked us to join the Rainmaker family. And I'd actually known Chelsea because we had worked together in the wedding industry. We're local to each other. And I always just loved Stephen and Chelsea. So I knew I had to go for it. And while I was taking the challenge, I felt drawn to it. But I was a little nervous because there was going to be an extra investment of time. And I just said like, Dad, okay, like if this is what it's meant to be, let me know. And like, it was June, and I live like in one of the most drought stricken areas in California. And it rained during the Rainmaker Challenge. And I was just like, okay, that was really literal. That's almost too on the nose, but I guess I should be here. But then I also just felt like this draw to like be a part of the team, to be an entrepreneur, as Stephen says. And that was when like immediately, pretty much after I had those thoughts, Stephen posted a job opening for the application review team. And the rest is history. I haven't looked back.
Love that.
Long story short. Or longer.
That's and something fun about like your background, about all your different things that you've done and how you've also led big teams, because Collab was heavily involved with Rainmakers at the time that you were promoted to being the manager, and I was getting to work with your team at that time. And I remember we were looking at people that were applying for the position and stuff, and it was like, like Kelly just like, she shows up really well for her team. Like she just like, she's not even trying, but she's like already leading her team. And then I don't remember if it was Stephen or Chelsea, or it might have even been Kimberly, were like, oh yeah, like she's like led huge teams before. Like she already, like she had, and it's like, well, then I feel like we know what we have to do.
Yes. Yeah. Like each role that I've gone into, and I don't mean this as a humble brag, this is honestly like what I try to do with each of my jobs, just to find meaning, in each of my positions, is just to leave it better than I found it. I love looking for like the inconsistencies and the holes and like bringing, sense to it all, and optimization and automation, and just leaving something a little better than I found it, and just really like making other people's jobs easier. And that was great for me in that ARO role because I needed part-time work and I saw like an opportunity to grow. So yeah, it's been a fun ride for sure.
Yeah, it's a great philosophy to have, and it's easy to fulfill that. And if you fulfill that, you can be happy and satisfied and just love going to work every day.
For sure. Yeah, it's easy with the Rainmaker family to love going to work every day.
Yeah. And that's so cool that you're just another example of, developing companies and people hiring their customers, being their raving fans already. Really easy to transition them into raving employees or people that work with them or contractors, whatever it is. Like it's just a really easy segue to go from people who believe in your product because they've used it to help guide others to use the product that they believe in already.
For sure. Yeah, for me, I knew if I was going to invest my life and my career into a company, I knew it had to be within my own personal ethos. And really like the Rainmaker family ethos and mine are like in complete alignment. So that's always been awesome, because it's just, it makes sense. And it's something I can look back on in my career and be like, I'm so glad I was in that place at that time.
Yeah, that's so good here.
Something else that that strikes me that I didn't know before is that you were in kind of like a soul-sucking job before you found Rainmakers. And not that I think that anyone should necessarily have to do a soul-sucking job, but I feel like it does put you in a unique position to be a leader because you have seen firsthand like what you don't want infiltrated in your team. And so I feel like I can see that even so much more now in the way that you lead with kindness with your team. Like there's so much grace involved that that unfortunately I think you didn't have in your previous positions, so that so solidly like what you want to like share with your team, and like how you said, like inspiring that light to come out. Like your team's talking about kind of tough things, like they're retaining people. Sometimes people get a little bit rough because it is, because the program does involve investment into any bit. You're essentially coaching people into starting a business. So it does take investment, and people get scared and they kind of will react that way. And so seeing you and your team just like carry that with grace and kindness and light is just, I feel like I got like a whole other like layer of Kelly context there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'd say like the light bulb moment for me was I got hired at my dream company. This isn't my previous job. This isn't the, being yelled at every day job, but I got hired at my dream company. It's local here where we live. And I was so excited. And I came in with a wealth of knowledge and experience in what I was doing. And the leadership position opened up. And it turned out to be a little bit of a political environment. It was pretty toxic. And someone who had no experience got the position. And they would micromanage me day in and day out. And it was tough. It was really tough to be when they didn't have like that knowledge to feel the need to micromanage their team, and then just to not be awarded for like all of the sweat equity I put into the business. It was tough. It really broke my confidence there for a while. But while I was working that job, another great local company reached out. They had seen my LinkedIn and they had seen the potential within me. And while this job came with like great benefits, like there was even childcare for my kids, like that's a big deal. But because this other company saw that light in me, and that potential, I left that dream job. And I was so glad that I did, because in that transition, I realized like, okay, if I'm willing to like take this leap for a company that I don't know a whole lot about and really isn't in like alignment with what I really saw for myself, what can I do for my teams when I call the light out in them? And when I make that investment into them and I allow them to invest into those things like family and those things first. And I think that that's really what has been like the shining feat with this team. I feel like everyone feels really well supported, and it's like my joy to bring out those things in the team.
I love that.
That's great. I know you've given us a lot of best stories so far, but is there one that kind of stands out to you since joining the Rainmakers that's maybe helped you develop even further, or some with the team, or any experience you've had?
Oh, for sure. Like, even though like I love coming to work every day, like there's been really big challenges. I've worked for startups in the past, but like I was employee number, 618, where like at Rainmakers, I don't know what I was. I was probably like employee number like 15 or something like that. So coming in, like there was no training. It was like, hey, I think these are the systems we're going to use. Let's see how it works. And but throughout that, I always felt really well supported because of the leadership. Like everyone on our leadership team is like not only a fantastic leader, but just like an exemplary human being that like inspires you to be around every day. It's like this crazy environment that's just awesome. So I never felt like lost or worried or operated from like a position of like negativity. It was always very positive. But I was able to see like, hey, like if we could do A, B, and C, then this would be like not an issue anymore. And like just being able to like recognize like the breaks in the chain just from like the experiences I had in the past. It's like I still am doing. I'm only a year into this role, but we're still growing rapidly. And every day it's like a new thing. But at Rainmakers, we don't call them problems, we call them opportunities. And like failures are almost celebrated, like because we know it's going to lead us to bigger and better things. So yeah, like every day, like we have these opportunities and it's the most awesome thing to be presented with. Like I love it.
Yeah, it really shows how much you enjoy working at Rainmakers, just in a small conversation.
Can you tell?
Definitely, we can tell. So has there been like a biggest hurdle you've dealt with so far, and maybe your transition from, these jobs to the Rainmaker family, or even transitioning your role to being on the leadership team?
I think that probably the biggest challenge was the hurdle that I first had to leap as becoming the leader of my team. Because our systems, like our team, everything was just growing so fast. Things were kind of starting to fall into the cracks. And like the team members were like, oh my gosh, Stephen and Chelsea are so awesome. Leadership's so awesome. But like, I'm working this many hours and I have this happening. And things are breaking and those things weren't being like addressed as quickly as they could have been. So when I first got into the role, it was like, okay, this is a retention issue. Like I've got this all-star team of ladies here and they're like getting burnt out and they're not able to like serve in their individual roles at like their highest level. And they don't like that because they're rock stars and they want to show up and, you know, do everything. So really, like when I got into the role, it was like, I was working so many hours, just like, we have got to do these things. And so thankfully, like over a short period of time, we were able to really like build systems that helped and to hire more team members and to get more people properly onboarded onto the teams. And it was no one's fault. We were just growing so rapidly. And we just needed to make sure that those team members were like well taken care of during that time.
And you dove in. I remember seeing like you're popping up in the Monday boards and in Slack where you're like, I see this. Can I make a copy and then do it like this? And it was like, yeah. And like you were like on it, like you were looking for those, like you said, like the broken links in the chain. You were on it. But I am not surprised to hear that you were putting in very many hours to do that, because I feel like you were kind of everywhere for a minute, like you were gonna fix it.
Oh yeah. I dove in deep.
Yeah, I love that because I get a lot of the questions from you too. And the great part was you guys wouldn't sweep anything under the rug and just like shrug it off. It's like every issue you'd bring to light, which is perfect because sometimes as somebody building out the tech, you don't really know it's an issue until somebody tells you. And if people just keep like, oh, I'll just sweep it under the rug, maybe it's a one-off. But if somebody just brings it to the light, then yeah, we can solve this. We can save everybody time and work and we can make something better. So you're always great about letting us know, like, all right, somebody investigate this. Tell us what's wrong.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear I'm not, like an ache in your side.
No, and I feel like you actually carried a lot of things over the finish line too, because I think that your team, because of how fast things were growing and because you didn't quite have the staff yet built up, which is part of why they wanted to, hire you as fast as possible, there was a lot of systems that were started, whereas like this would be great if. And so there were things that were started, but then they were just kind of left with loose ends. And so I feel like that was part of what you were doing and why we saw you everywhere is you were like, hey, I found this, like we can do this if we do this. And so it was like, oh yeah. And then so it was like you were just doing a great job of investigating and like picking out which parts were going to benefit the team best. And so it was like a great, like you have a very good skill for seeing things at a high level and like seeing kind of how it'll rain onto the rest of your team.
Well, thank you.
Kelly, what's one piece of advice you today would give you, maybe just starting out, you're new to this company, you're employee number 15, it's a small up and coming, you do know the owners a little bit, but you're still new. It's a little piece of advice you give yourself starting out.
That's a good one. I think that coming into this, I had been like a stay-at-home mom and I had a little bit of, what did they call it when you don't like recognize your own achievement and your own like worth?
Imposter syndrome.
Yep. I was suffering from major imposter syndrome. And I think that I just needed to, I would have known like truly the environment that I was stepping into. And I wish that I didn't like come in with as much fear from like traumatic previous work experiences, because this was something totally new to me. Because I think I carried that for a while and it allowed me to, or made me less vulnerable than I wish I would have been to start. I think if I would have just kind of jumped in and realized like, oh my gosh, like this really is as wonderful as it's presented, I could have ran with it a lot quicker, but I had my guards up a lot more when I came into this company. So that's something I've learned. And going forward, I'm just going to go in and be authentically myself, because I think that the quicker we can identify, like what this environment is and what it speaks to you in your career, like I think that that's pretty valuable.
I love that. And that actually brings back to like a really early ops experts conversation that we had around hiring, where it was two people that are like in the hiring position and like trying to ask questions that that you're not giving your person who's applying like necessarily a choice. Like you're asking them questions that kind of puts them in a vulnerable place so you can really get to know who they are before you hire them on, because everyone's going to put on that shiny exterior with the walls up when they're trying to like put their best foot forward and get hired. But then you don't actually know in that moment if they're the best fit for the company. And when if
Mhm.
everyone would just come in as they are, because it'll save, and that's not belittling, not to belittle people that just need a job, because there are people in that position where it's like, I'm gonna act however I have to act because I have to get a job today.
Mhm.
But it, if you're doing that, it's going to be the wrong job for you possibly in the long run. So if you just come forward and you're just like, this is me, this is how I am in stressful situations, and I do really well, but I might get a little bit frazzled, like you're gonna benefit yourself and your possible employer that much better.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. If you do that, you're just showing, your accountability. You're showing up as you are with all your imperfections, and you're ready to, leverage those into opportunities and to strengths for sure. I think that that's a great thing to point out.
Well, Kelly, I don't know if you've been watching some of the past episodes we've done here, but you've really touched on a few of the key points we see in a lot of ops experts we've been on to the show. Just
How
so you
funny.
know, and our viewers understand this too, that like people we're bringing on, most of them are experiencing, imposter syndrome when they start out, are customers before they're working with the company, and start from the bottom and have risen above with the company as the company grows. So, you're really hitting all those key parts that we see in a lot of people that are now just, doing leaps and bounds above what they even thought they'd be doing 2 years ago. And it's just really cool to see that and some of these awesome people we get to work with.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And totally a testament to like the types of places that you're working with and what you guys do as a company. You really call out and help others raise up. And I think it's been such a wonderful experience working with you guys. And I think that you really do see the potential in those and help bring it out of them. That's awesome.
Oh, I love that. But I think it's so important that we keep having that people like you keep talking about their experience and their journey, because I think it is so helpful for people, because there's people struggling all over, and they might be working a job that feels, beneath what their potential is. And just so hearing stories like yours and knowing that if they just keep trusting themselves, being their authentic selves, doing their best, like chances are they're going to find it. They just have to find that spot where they fit.
100%. Yeah, I have, people in my own personal life that I hear saying things that I would say about myself in my position, 7 years ago. And I just remind them it doesn't have to be this way. Like you need to find that thing that lights you up and go for it. Like the way I see it is we have one life. Like why spend it like griping about these jobs? Like sure, the benefits are okay, but like you can truly thrive and like develop as a person, like in the right place. So yeah, hopefully if anyone hears this that is in that spot and they feel stuck, like go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like a lot of people we bring on, what they're doing now, they never thought they'd be doing 2 years ago. So they
Awesome.
just said yes to an opportunity and ran with it and found something they love. So absolutely keep doing it. Kelly, it's
Awesome.
been great talking with you. We love having you on. It's been fun working with you, with the
Yes.
Rainmaker family.
Thank you so much, guys, for having me. It was so fun to get to chat with you.
Yes, I'm so glad we got to have you on. I feel like we climbed Mount Everest to get here together, and we are here together, and I'm so excited to get to talk to you to your face again.
It's been great.
It's the thing.
All right. Well, ops experts people, we'll see you again next week. Thanks everyone for joining.